And I'm not talking to air. I'm not talking to air.
Welcome, folks. It's me, your host with the most, Red Stiltskin, 100% real human being, here to bring you on another amazing tour of paranormal pop culture. With me, as always, is my producer and creepy entity, Blue Baltimore. How's it going today, Blue?
Good.
Rock and roll. Today, we are covering Season 1, Episode 3 of Conjuring Kesha, the Discovery Plus original series that has shaken up the normal and the paranormal world. The original air date of today's episode is July 15th, 2022, so it's pretty fresh. The corpse is pretty fresh, definitely not skeletonized yet. There's a really awesome guest star this week. It's rapper, actor, and personality Gata. You might recognize Gata from the hit television show Dave, which stars the rapper Lil Dicky. My sister loves Lil Dicky. She tried to get me to go to the concert. I don't know why we didn't go. I just didn't think it worked out, I was the only Lil Dicky. Cut. Sorry, Grandma. My mom said you were in the room watching me, so I have to watch myself. Gata's really cool, though. He shows awesome character development throughout the episode. He lets us in on a little bit of his personal life. Originally from Los Angeles, as a kid growing up, Gata would fall in love with street magicians and their amazing performances, and he would discover he had affinity for Houdini. So as they come to this location, which we're definitely going to get deep into this location, there is definitely a connection to Houdini here. Okay. So the mansion, the place that they're going to is the Westerfeld Mansion in San Francisco. Yes, it is on Fulton Street. I know you were going to ask me before I got the chance to say that. Built in either 1889 or 1869, depending on which bogus website you find on Google. It was built by some guy named Mr. Westerfeld, who was a prominent baker and candy store owner in San Francisco. He would only have the pleasure of living in his house for 6 years until he died, after which the house would be possessed by a string of counterculturalists that would turn the house into the haunted magnet it is today, bringing the likes of both Kesha and Gata.
Even Zach Baggins.
And of course, our main man, Zach Bagans, who traveled there in season 20 of his hit show Ghost Adventures. His take on it was a little more dramatic than Kesha's, but he did have the pleasure of interviewing famous filmmaker Kenneth Anger, who lived in the house from 1967 to 1969. While he was there, he produced a film, The Invocation of My Demon Brother. At this time, the house was frequented by other famous occultists and gay personalities like Anton LaVey, who is familiar to us as the father of the Church of Satan, the formal religious organization today that follows the teachings of Satan. So we got some queer history. We got some other kinds of history here, occult history. I also learned today that Kenneth Anger was friends with Kinsey from the Kinsey Institute. And they worked together and were friends for a long time, all the way until Kinsey died, which I thought was interesting as well. So there's another queer figure from history that has a connection to this house.
And what about the Manson connection?
Oh yes, the Manson connection starts with Kenneth Anger as well. Bobby Buscemi, the first member of the Manson family to commit one of the Helter Skelter murders, was one of Kenneth Anger's close friends and acted in several of his films until they had a falling out, and that's when he went and joined the Manson cult. Was after his fallout with Kenneth
The
Anger.
logical option.
Obviously, because when you get dumped or break up, the next thing you should do is go join a murderous cult, right? Like, how do you think if people didn't get dumped, there would be no murderous cults. So if you think your ex or your partner would join a murderous cult after breaking up, it might be worth it to stay together for just a little bit, okay? Till they're too old and weak to do a real murder. So this house has it all. At the beginning of the 20th century, a group of Russian czarists moved in, and they apparently murdered a Russian colonel there. They turned the first floor into a nightclub called Dark Eyes, which I would definitely go to a Russian nightclub called Dark Eyes, okay?
Good techno.
Good techno, that's right. Exactly. We know what makes the eyes dark, it's when your pupils are the size of quarters. That happened a lot there, though. After the czarists moved in, it became a place where jazz musicians would come and stay when they had shows to play in the San Francisco area. A hippie commune would move in. That's who occupied it previous to Kenneth Anger. Kenneth Anger claimed in his interview with Zach Bagans that there was already a circle painted on the floor of the tower when he got there. The tower is a subject of much mystery, and we'll see Kesha and Gata drawn to it time after time here. It is said that the original builder wanted the tower added so that his house would be taller than his brother's, right, which was another prominent house in the San Francisco area. It's all just whip them out, boys. Who's got the bigger tower? You know what I'm saying? Level after level. At some point, the ceiling in the tower was removed and the rafters exposed because it was alleged that this would increase the spirit telecommunication aspects available in the tower. And I think this is a big reason why these counterculturists were drawn to this place to begin with, is because it has a history with the spiritual movement going back to when its original creator was first killed. Famous pioneering scientist in radio technology, Guillermo Marconi also conducted several experiments in the Bay Area, including from the tower of the Westerfeld Mansion. Okay, Marconi was from a generation of scientists that would be followed by another even more out there generation of people that truly believed that these devices that they created could communicate with the dead. Marconi, at the same time that he was sending the first radio wave across the Atlantic Ocean, was also a fervent believer that these technologies could be used to communicate with spirits on the other side. This was common, though. Thomas Edison, the final invention he was working on before his death was a spirit telephone. He truly believed that if you had a sensitive enough instrument, you could capture the delicate whisperings of spirits on the other side. Alexander Graham Bell, his interest in spiritualism didn't start after his invention of the telephone. It started before. He invented the telephone and the technology related to it to speak to his dead brother. He very much wanted to communicate with his dead brother, and his telephone was the way that he was trying to do that. It just so happens that now we all walk around with a telephone in our pockets, right? Ready to be contacted by the other side at any time. So this spiritualist thinking is present in this house throughout its history, and that's what has attracted people like Houdini. Houdini, at the beginning of his career, actually started doing spiritualist tricks. Like he would pretend to contact the dead and levitate objects and all of these things that we associate not with the magic that he was doing at the height of his career, right? He became an escape artist and he made an elephant disappear, right? That doesn't really match up with the view of him as I just heard a spirit. Is someone related to someone with the letter R in their name? A group of 100 people, you better believe there are. Spiritualism was all the rage, right? So Houdini, after his wife died, was interested in potentially contacting her spirit. And it was his friend, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of the famous Sherlock mysteries. So Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's wife was going to be the medium to contact Houdini's wife from the other side. So you have these very culturally influential people leading this spiritualist movement, but Houdini was not pleased with his service. He did not outright call Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's wife a liar, but he was not comforted by what he saw, and instead used this as a launching point for a new career where he would actually travel around the United States and offer to debunk and contest mediums in those different local areas. Like, what's that cooking show with Bobby Flay? The Can You Beat Bobby Flay show, where Bobby Flay travels around and local chefs try to beat him. It was like that. It's like, can you out psychic Houdini? Can you?
He was still alive. That's his show. That's what he'd be doing.
Houdini?
Mm-hmm.
He would be doing a cooking show?
No, he'd be doing his psychic debunking show alongside Zach and Kesha.
If he were still alive, I'm pretty sure he could just charge people $25 to come see his old, decrepit ass sitting there, right? He'd be like 150 years old or something. Shrug emoji. That's what I get in response to that. The current owner. The house is now owned by this cute gay couple, and
they don't say it, but it's
in the show they don't say it. But when Zach is interviewing Kenneth Anger, he doesn't enlighten the audience about his film as like a groundbreaking homosexual filmmaker. They don't mention that part. The owners, the one guy, I read an interview with him, very interesting. He said that as a child, he fell in love with the house in the Addams Family. And when he was about 11, his family was driving through San Francisco and they drove past the Westerfeld Mansion. And he said he fell in love and made it his mission from that point on to purchase that home. And he started his own renovation company, renovating old Victorian mansions in the Bay Area, in order to get enough capital and salvage material to end up purchasing the place, which they spent a long time restoring and now spend all of their time maintaining. And so it was a good interview, because he mentioned that, growing up as a gay child, he, didn't have many friends or whatever, and found, it was a helpful coping mechanism to envision a life with a house like this, in a place like this, with people who are all different and yet all accepted each other, right? And I think that's why a lot of people who feel misfit from society for whatever reason, whether you're LGBT or something else has happened in your life that has made you turn away from the mainstream, maybe it's a mental health issue that you don't get help for or that no one acknowledges. I think a lot of those people turn to the occult and occult lifestyles as a way to forge community outside of the mainstream. And places like the Westerfeld House have been important sites for this countercultural movement throughout time. Some might argue that, some counterculturalist movements are not as productive as others. But at the same time, no one has killed more people than the U.S. government. So what can we do about that, So very interesting history here at the house. Kesha and Gata actually, I would say, kind of fit right in with all the counterculturist people that have been coming and going. Kesha, a pop star who has sort of, as her career has gone on, has sort of leaned into the queer community to accept her, but the queer community has also been a big supporter of her in her legal battles with Dr. Luke, the same way the queer community and the fringe community have supported people like Britney Spears in their long-term legal battles for personal freedom. I think that any misfit or counterculturist can identify with the quest for freedom, right? And so I think these figures are important representations of the people who value or who prioritize seeking freedom or truth. Whether or not that is a terrifying truth, which is the title of today's episode. Yes. All right. So now that we know some more history about the house, of course, there is so much more to know. All the people that have been connected to this house obviously could have their own episode to talk about. And maybe we'll do that. Drop in the comments below if you want to hear an episode about crazy scientists who have been obsessed with talking to spirits or even aliens. There's a lot of history of people trying to contact aliens from the tower at this here Westerfeld house, okay? Jack Parsons, whose wife acted in several of Kenneth Anger's films. Jack Parsons, you might know him from being the inventor of rocket fuel. He was also a big believer in the occult and spent a lot of time with Kenneth Anger, and he was a big part of that scene. And he would die in a mysterious explosion in his garage lab at home, which many people in the alien community believe that he had secret alien information, and that's why the government had to take him out, and seize his research. But that's a whole nother mystery. Okay. And that mystery surrounds the Westerfeld house. So here we go. Kesha and Gata are...
Houdini walked these steps.
That's right.
I love this for you.
Yeah, he's one of my idols.
Houdini was one of Gata's idols. And here they go. They're walking up to the door. And right as they get to the door, Kesha captures on her 2000s tape recorder the doorknob moving. Before they can even touch it, the spirits are welcoming them inside with the moving doorknob. And Gata, who at the beginning of this episode says that he is skeptical, is immediately presented with a challenge. And as Kesha says later in the episode, when you challenge the spirits, things can happen. She also said that the doorknob turning is proof that the spirits wanted them there. They're welcoming them inside. They're like, hey, girl, come party with us, which Kesha will later report in this episode that she feels a very debauched vibe in this place, and it makes her want to dance around and take her clothes off. So maybe it's the hippies, maybe it's Kenneth Anger and crew influencing her. Who knows? But at the beginning of this episode, she is feeling welcome and a little less than wary. They go and meet Jim, who is the owner here. And Jim reports that he bought the house in 1986, and he's lived here for over 35 years. And he's the one who grew up watching the Addams Family and wanted to purchase this exact house from the age of 11 years old. Kelly Edwards is the mansion caretaker. I get couple vibes from them, but who knows? One is tall and bald, like a little stocky. The other one's a little more slight, with gray hair, thick gray hair, cut short, combed over. They're cute. Kesha, I don't want to say she's dressed down in this episode, but she is wearing all black. Today she's decided to go for the wet hair look, which in and of itself, I guess, is a little debauched, but we'll see. We know that's a popular look these days. The owner is reporting that someone was sitting on the toilet when the doorknob moved, and they're getting excited because that mirrored their experience. Imagine you're just sitting on the toilet. You've been holding in this deuce. You finally get to drop it. You're sitting there. All of a sudden, the doorknob starts turning. You're like, whoa, whoa, occupied. Then to find out it's a ghost, well, that's just layers of disappointment during your private time. We got to watch an ad today. I'm not going to be making up any fake ads.
I know you want to.
Oh, my God. Today, if I could have a sponsor from anybody, today's sponsor is milk. Something happened to my milk, y'all. Poured it in my cereal this morning. It was not right. It was thick. At first, I had hoped that it had somehow magically turned to ice cream and that I was in for a delicious treat. But no, it was bitter, unpleasant. I had to throw away my last bowl of Total, which is where I get most of my vitamins from, which is a problem. So our sponsor today is milk. Milk. It's in your fridge. Not in mine. Can someone bring me half a gallon of milk, please? Thank you. Okay. We are in the mansion. Kata says you never know until you know, and that is so true. They are up in the master bedroom where Mr. Westerfeld died. And Gata is like, you're afraid to sleep in this bed, Kesha, because Kesha's going to sleep in this master bedroom. He's like, you're afraid to sleep in this bed? I'm not. Watch me lay down. So he lays down and puts his feet up, and Kesha's like, whoa, you're crazy. And he's like, my back hurts. And he gets up. He's like, something is killing my back. And he's not expecting it. Kelly reports that someone else had a similar experience. And Gata is left searching for answers. He doesn't want to believe just yet, of course, because he's a skeptic. But he says, you know, we'll see. We'll see about that. I don't know. Maybe I was moving too fast. Maybe you were. We'll see. The evidence is mounting up. Our next scene, they head to the library, which is beautiful. It is stunning. The books, there's so many beautiful books. They have sculptures, a wonderful globe. Kelly starts telling the story about how he was searching for a book. And all of a sudden, this huge rush of energy came in and the room dropped. And it was 20 degrees colder. It was freezing. There was an entity there. It felt like it was scolding him. But he didn't look up. I wouldn't. I would be like, oh. All of a sudden, the lights start flickering in the room. Ooh, I have goosebumps. Ooh. Kesha starts talking to the lights. Hello? Hello, are you in the lamp? Then Gata starts talking to the lamp. He says, Houdini, if you're in there, give me some answers. And then after he says that, Kesha's battery dies. And her camera flashes to its pink screen. Because our queen Kesha and her old camera, she can't have a blue screen when it dies. It's got to be pink. The battery's fine. Maybe this is more proof the spirits like to communicate through electronics. Gata's opinion, that's an old camera. You got an old piece of crap camera. He wants to... He's not buying that the spirits communicate through the electronics. I mean, Kesha's camera, it does look in your closet for the camera that you got when you were in middle school. That is the same one that Kesha is using right now. She just attached some rhinestones to it. Our next stop on our trip through the Westerfeld Mansion. Kesha's hair still isn't dry. In case you were wondering, it's still wet. And they have been taken up to the tower. The tower, again, where the ceiling has been removed to facilitate spirit communication. The tower where Anton LaVey kept his pet baby lion, whose claw marks are still visible on the door jamb.
It's like my cat when I don't open the door.
Yeah, I don't know why you're leaving the cat in the tower, though. Like, I mean, like, why did it want to get out so bad? Like, what were you doing up there? Apparently, Anton LaVey was a lion tamer and involved in a circus act before becoming the leader of the Satanic Church, which is why he had this lion that was also involved in rituals. But if you look at the work of Kenneth Anger, which records a lot of rituals, not that are not necessarily satanic, but that deal with, because Kenneth Anger is a follower of Aleister Crowley's philosophy and Thelema and the Book of Thelema and all that. So a lot of the contents in the Book of Thelema are rituals and stuff from other cultures. Like Aleister Crowley didn't really invent these things. He traveled around Egypt and the Sumerian region, which was popular at the end of the 1800s because of colonization. It was now easier than ever for people from Europe and the colonies to travel to Africa, India, and all of these other places. So Aleister Crowley was definitely part of that crowd. While they're in the tower, they're talking to the maintenance guy, Nick, and he's saying that he was paralyzed by a spirit. And it scares the beep out of Kesha. When she stands up, there's a poop emoji on the chaise where she was sitting, okay? I don't know where I'm going with this, folks. All right, so Kesha's getting ready to go to bed. She's sleeping in a bed that multiple people have died in. She's asking Gaeta if he's ready to spend the night. He's a little sketched out. He says he doesn't want, I do want to stay, but it's a little creepy. But on the other hand, I don't believe. And it's this interesting tension and cognitive dissonance that happens to people where the growth comes from. I don't know if it's always been part of my theory that stories about ghosts and aliens are like imagination exercises that help our brains develop new and deeper, more complex thought, right? I think that's why we see a lot of these inventors and people that have invented these really important inventions that have promoted the development of human culture. They've been simultaneously obsessed with aliens and finding out whether or not if ghosts are real. And part of me wonders, are they able to make these unique inventions and deep connections there because they've spent time wondering about these other things? So let's wonder about this wondering. Kesha's taken her gem pod to bed. Me too, girl. The gem pod's always there for you. And it always says what you want to hear. Okay, I take that back. They're in Gaeta's room, and they're pulling out the gem pod. Kesha's explaining to him what the gem pod is. He politely didn't ask why is it covered in rhinestones. He knows why. It's because she's a diva. And they're getting... Oh, I take all of that back. So Kesha and Gaeta are getting ready for bed, and they've set up REM pods throughout the house. One in her bedroom and one in his bedroom. As she finishes setting up the gem pod in his bedroom, she leaves and hears the gem pod in her room going off. So, of course, she does what anyone would do in this situation and sit down on the bed and cross her legs and say, "Hello, who's there?" She gets a lot of results with the gem pod. This thing is answering every one of her questions. Granted, it's answering them with beep, but it's responding. Woo. Gaeta came down to check out the vibe in Kesha's room and then left. And here she is. She's laying in bed, and she just keeps thinking about which side of the bed the man died on. Because she's trying to decide which side she should sleep on. But she doesn't want to sleep on the side the man died on. I got to say, if you sleep alone, you sleep in the middle, Kesha. So he probably died right in the middle. And Gaeta, he's sitting in his bed trying to sleep. All of a sudden, his gem pod goes off. And he's gone. He's gone for the night. He goes home. I don't blame him. I never would have agreed to stay in the first place. I would have been like, okay, I'll be there during the day for a nice daytime shoot at around 8. I'm going to take off, go get some dinner, check out some local attractions. I am in San Fran. There's many other places I could spend the night other than this place. But I got to say, again, this is part of the character progression. If he doesn't believe, why is he too scared to spend the night, right? And I love that. I think that's why people in general enjoy watching these types of shows, because it plays with their imagination in a way that other things don't. Some questions don't have answers. Questions like, are ghosts real? What happens after we die? Why do we die? Why are we created? Why are we born? Why does my voice sound like this? Why can't I have a relationship? These are all questions with no answers. And while these things can be uncomfortable to consider, just pondering them is an exercise. It's exercising your mind, right? Life isn't all about answers. Sometimes it's about asking questions in order to seek the truth. Kesha. So here, Kesha's been left alone in the haunted mansion. Ooh. And what happened? She spent her night tossing and turning, flooded by nightmares, hearing disembodied voices, accompanied by full body paralysis. That's right. So in the morning, Gaeta comes back and she's like, how'd you sleep? He's like, I slept great. How did you sleep? And she's like, oh, it was a horrifying living nightmare filled with images of demons and losing control of my body. But, it's all worth it in the end, I'm just here to learn and grow. Sometimes you have growing pains, Like I said, Gaeta made the choice I would have to not be there. But already we see Gaeta. He is ready. He comes back and he says, I'm ready to just be more open-minded, just be ready to learn, to listen to the spirits, right? So already his one-day experience in something he does not believe him has made him more open-minded, ready to learn. And I think that is an important outcome of these types of stories, these types of narratives or folk tales, because they do make people more open to different ways of being and types of being. Because as I've mentioned before, ghost stories have persisted in all cultures across the whole world for all of time. There have always been stories about beings from different dimensions or beings related to dead people, or people die and they turn into these other things. These have always been a part of our collective human culture. And I think it is for this reason, because it makes us think differently, right? He says, I feel like I'm broadening my way of thinking, just like the great Houdini. And Houdini was the same. He never stopped asking questions. He was skeptical of the paranormal and of psychic abilities, but he never stopped trying to determine whether or not it was real. He was seeking the truth. Gaeta is ready to investigate the house. He's come back with a new attitude. Kesha openly admits, she says, quote, we are terrible listeners, and has made it her effort to become a better listener on this here day, which I think is important. Kesha showing growth as well. We all love a story with character progression. And here we see it. Kesha, she's going to listen more. That's great. We should all listen. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth so we could listen twice as much as we speak. My grandma's in the room, okay? She would like that one. She would like that, okay? And she's here with us, so you got to respect her. All right, folks, we're going to take a break. And we'll be back. Bye. All right, folks. Welcome back from break. We are on day 2 of our investigation at the Westfeld Mansion. Kesha and Gata have just shared their experiences of their nights. Kesha had a rough one. She had a tough one, But that's why you don't see me sleeping in a haunted mansion. All right. So Kesha and Gata are continuing their investigation here at the Westfeld Mansion. They got their ghost box that scans through radio frequencies, and ghosts can manipulate it to send messages. One of the first messages they receive from the ghost box is, "Get out," of course, as we've come to know. The ghosts frequently tell Kesha to get out, and when she says she's going to leave, they say, "Great." And this ghost is no exception. So she gets told to get out. Her and Gata leave the room, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so scared. Oh, there's so much energy in there." Then, of course, because they're in pursuit of the truth, they go back in, now they got to figure out who said this, right? So Gata's talking to the ghost box. He's like, "Ghost, state your name." He's addressing the ghost, says ghost, like, "Ghost. Ghost, are you Anton LaVey?" And then he goes, "Ghost, are you Harry Houdini?" And the ghost goes, "Sure." So whether or not the ghost is Harry Houdini, it doesn't seem to mind being identified as Harry Houdini or known as Harry Houdini to Gata. It's probably like, "Okay, sure, I'm Harry Houdini. Will you leave now? If I say I'm here, will you leave now? Is this satisfactory to you?" So they get their EVP where they're told to get out and get a non-committal shrug from the spirit as to whether or not it's Houdini. "Sure, I guess. I am whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would you say I am? In the paper, the news, every day I am. Radio won't even play my jam." You drop below in the comments if you know what song that's from. Kesha says, "Ew, I don't like it. It freaked me out. It's like so freaky, baby. It's super freaky." So the ghost is pretending to be Houdini. They decide that now they need to get more information. So they go up to the tower. Okay, they're in the tower. They take the ghost box up to the tower. "Talk." That's what Gata says. "Talk." Ooh, the gem pod's going off. We know the gem pod likes to run its mouth around these parts. They don't get very many results through the ghost box. The gem pod really stole the show. So what has the ghost box got to say to follow up to that? They're trying to figure out if they have any other technology that they can use to contact the spirits. And Kesha's like, "Well, I have this really old thing. It's called a Ouija board. Have you heard of it?" Like, no, I haven't heard of one of the most best-selling toys by Mattel in the last century. Of course I know what a Ouija board
Parker
is.
Brothers.
What?
Parker Brothers.
Parker Brothers? Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Fact check.
I don't know.
Ask Google. Get to the Google. Google. What company? You got to type it in while I'm talking to make it seem like it has voice activated. What company owns Ouija boards?
Oh, Hasbro.
Oh, we were both wrong. Hasbro.
Oh, now owned by Hasbro.
Now owned by Hasbro. So who's the original owner?
The Parker Brothers and later Hasbro.
Oh, the Parker Brothers. All right. So you were right. So the Ouija board, Parker Brothers creation, now owned by Hasbro. Children's toy. I have this ancient technology. It's very obscure. Have you heard of it? It's called a Ouija board. Roasted. This is if this is a kids show, it's good for kids. It's good for kids. Gata's into the spirit board. He wants to try it. So they go get the Ouija and they take it to the library. They're going to play with the Ouija here. As soon as they walk in, the gem pods start going off. They're like, beep, 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 beep. I think they're just trying to instigate a rave. They put their hands on the Ouija board. Almost immediately, it starts moving. They're like, I didn't do that. I didn't touch that. There's more. I'm not even touching it. I'm barely touching it. It's like you can't even perceive it moving on the screen. We just have to believe them. Finally, someone asks, is there a spirit here? And then the next thing you hear is, Kesha screaming. And she'll say that it felt like a bolt of electricity got shot through the Blanchette. And it caused her to take her hands away. Although, as Mr. Baltimore could tell you, you're not supposed to break the circle in the Ouija when you're using it. Right.
Correct. 2 hands must always be on.
She
Open
did
yourself up.
She did a whoopsie. You know. That's why you don't see me using this ancient technology. It's a little too dangerous for my blood. Obviously, they're freaked out, right? The gem pod is singing the song of its people. Beep. And the Blanchette lands perfectly on the letter T. Dun, dun, dun. I know the drama. Oh, speaking of tea, look. While I'm spilling the tea. I can sip it with you, too. All right. Let's get the tea at this here haunted mansion. Okay, so Kesha's like, whoa, that was intense. Maybe we should talk to a psychic. Luckily, she has Sarah on speed dial. She just gets on her, since she loves old technology, she's got her old camera. She pulls out her giant portable phone, and she's like, pulls the antenna out. Boop, boop, boop. Is this Sarah? We need a psychic now. It's like a crossover episode with Ghost Whisperer. Although I do like her outfit here. She has changed outfits. She is now wearing what I call her summer Santa look. She's got this like crushed red velvet. She's got this crushed red velvet kind of coat robe thing with white trim all along the collar and the front and the sleeves. It's very like casual Santa chic. And paired with her black tank top, it's very fashion forward. I'm glad to report her hair is finally dried as well. And is now in a classy, it looks like she's wearing a bumpet, okay? Which I'm glad to see someone keeping bumpet culture alive. So they got Sarah here. Obviously, because Sarah is an on-demand psychic, she immediately shows up. They don't want to let out the production secret that they like contacted her a couple weeks ago and always had her scheduled to come at this time. They had to make it seem like it was an accident. When she gets there, she definitely feels portals and doors opening, and she feels this pull, this draw to go upstairs, to keep going up, 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 up where? Obviously to the tower. On their way up to the tower, she hits on the electrical issues that they've been having in the library. And she comes across the Ouija board, because of course that's where they were playing with the Ouija. And she's saying, where is all this energy going to go out? It's going to shoot out of your hands in a bolt of lightning onto the Blanchette to scare your friend who's just trying to have fun. So they go from the library all the way up to this tower. It's got this really cool lamp in here. I'm all about this lamp. I mean, if being able to channel spirit energy looks like this, it's kind of fashion forward. And the psychic had seen the exposed rafters. She thought they were bars, like on a prison cell. But what she was seeing were these exposed rafters. And of course, again, this is the tower where Houdini did telepathy experiments to try to prove or disprove whether telepathy and psychic mediumship was a real thing. Marconi was sending out radio signals. There were people sitting up here doing rituals to summon spirits and entities from different dimensions to talk to aliens. They do the classic shot where they all put their arms together to show how their hair is standing up on end. Kesha mentions how Houdini was trying to do telepathy experiments to contact his wife while she was alive and positioned across the bay. And then, of course, he would do similar experiments after she passed. And like the psychic says, once you open up that signal and send that signal, people are going to hear that signal and come. And Gaeta is a deep thinker, and he has had to deal with a lot, because whenever you look up Gaeta, of course, you see so many articles about how he's dealt with bipolar. And that's on the show Dave. He plays like a heightened version of himself, a character based on himself. And there's a great episode where his character comes out as bipolar and talks about his struggles. And that was important. That was like a big moment of awareness for not just mental health, but mental health in specific cultures that are very sort of skeptical of mental health treatment and stuff like that. And I remember seeing that episode and it having a positive impact on me, being like, oh, well, look at this. And so I can see how someone like him would be greatly impacted by their experience at this mysterious mansion. The psychic is putting together the fact that the Ouija board landed on the letter T. And Gaeta shares with us that the letter T is important to him. It's even capitalized in his name, Gaeta, G-A-T-A. It's capitalized. And to him, he did that because the T represents the truth and living your truth and being your truth and seeking the truth.
Although it took Kesha a moment to make that connection.
It certainly did. The producers definitely, the audience definitely made that connection way before the producers showed it on screen, but that's okay. And they have this cute moment where Gaeta is crying. He is having a profound experience right now. And Kesha is like comforting him and looking as emotional as she can. And Gaeta's talking about being vulnerable and embracing your vulnerability. That's part of living your truth, is living in your vulnerabilities and not trying to overcompensate for them. And again, whether or not ghosts are real, this man had an experience that will impact his whole life moving forward. Your beliefs shape so much of your life, so many of your decisions. And when they are changed, you will see that change manifest in your life. Even if all it does is make you more comfortable with the idea that there are more questions than answers in life. And we get a beautiful music video outro. Gaeta, he all his outfits are cute. He does the vest look with the short sleeves. Always love that look. They're cute together. They're a cute pair. They have a good dynamic. And there you go. Kesha ends the episode by taking a photo of herself on a Polaroid camera. And that is a wrap. Live your truth, Gaeta says. And there you go. Live your truth. I can't think of a better message to end a show with. They tease the upcoming episode. They're going hunting for Bigfoot next. We love that here. And thank you for listening, my listeners. If you've been with us this long, you might as well take the time to like and subscribe, okay? If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to give us a 5-star review, because where else are you going to get this, okay? Every week, my glasses are going to get tinier and tinier, okay? Don't miss out. Drop a comment below if you've ever been to the Westerfeld house and have a story to share. Let us know. As always, I have been Red Stiltskin, 100% real human being. By my side, 1 foot in the grave, my producer, Blue Baltimore, pressing buttons, saying stuff sometimes. Anything you want to say to the people before we go, Blue?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Work. All right. Class dismissed.
We have to do our outro.
Oh, we have to do our outro. Okay, then cut that. 3, 2, 1. Good, great, bye. Burger, fry, burger, fry.